There was a time in history where Western civilization had the daring and the audacity to protect itself from foreign invaders. And now, a couple weeks after we get the report on the rape gangs in England, we learn that 250,000 British girls were raped over a period of several years, almost entirely by Muslim men of Pakistani descent. And yet, what we hear, the refrain from the left, is that it's not all Pakistanis. Let's not indulge in any hatred of Pakistanis. Whatever we do, let's not kick them out. Do you realize people groups have been pushed out of kingdoms, completely evicted and exiled for far less than what the Muslims have done? Why do we tolerate this? Why do we allow any of them to still be here? We're under this delusion in modern America that post-World War II, it's been the end of history. Through all of human history, borders have changed, kingdoms have risen and fallen, peoples have been exiled and annexed, peoples have been annihilated even, and history took place because people took life by the horns and did what they thought was best for their people and for the fate of their civilization. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And yet now, the people of the West have become soft. We've forgotten that we can even do those things. And if anyone even raises the idea of possibly attacking another country or doing something that would change our relationship as a civilization with another people group who's lived among us for a long time, it's almost like the sky is falling. And how dare you suggest such a thing, because we don't do that anymore. History did not end with World War II. There will be more wars in our future. More people groups will come and go. People will be welcomed in and evicted. And I'm going to tell you right now that anyone who is looking at history can realize now is the time to double down on your own people's identity. Because if you don't, you have a narrow matter of years before that identity is completely gone and you can't get it back. And even forgetting the demographic fate that will await us as a civilization if we don't do something. If we just keep waltzing off into the demographic sunset of our people as if it doesn't really matter and we'll worry about it someday in the future. Barring that, there is a much more immediate and violent fate that will await the most vulnerable of our populations. And the rape report that just came out of Britain is exactly what I'm talking about. We have 250,000 people. Do you realize how many people that is? That's a ton of young, innocent lives destroyed simply because the government of Britain let down their people, abandoned them, and betrayed them. It's absolutely reprehensible. And yet, by and large, except among the more extreme adherents of right-wing populism or nationalism, there's really nothing being done about it. There's not a strong outcry to kick them out. There's really not. And that is an indictment of every man in the West for not seeing what has happened, observing the great and terrible crime that has been perpetrated on your most vulnerable, and doing nothing to evict them. Entire people groups have been evicted from lands for less. It is high time that we look at the situation we've brought upon ourselves, or maybe more appropriately, has been pushed on us by some very nefarious elites, and we've accepted it like sheep. And to say, no more. Starting now, we are going to push for policies and advocate for political leaders who will try their best, under the power and the will of the people, to effect the eviction of Muslims, to effect the eviction of migrants, to remigrate them as a people. They have to go. They can't stay here. The reason the Middle East looks like the Middle East does is because of all the Middle Eastern people who live there doing their Middle Eastern things. Same applies to any other country on the face of the earth. Africa looks the way Africa does because of the Africans. Asia looks like Asia does because of the Asians who live there in their different quarters. And so it's a tremendous amount of hubris to think that in our modern era, post-World War II, post the end of history, when all is going to be a beautiful globalist shepherd's pie of people singing merry songs together and forgetting all their past animosities, you forget that peace is not possible with people who are fundamentally incompatible with you. And we still insist on keeping them here like we have some sort of responsibility to them, like we have some kind of obligation to just maintain the status quo of the world since World War II. History isn't over. wars, peoples rising and falling, empires opening their doors and closing them again, will happen in the future. And the longer we pretend that we just can't do that anymore, like we're above that and we're not going to, we are making ourselves oblivious to reality that many of our enemies are still very well aware of and are quite willing to take advantage of. Because other people groups realize that the fate of nations is determined by demographics. It's determined by who owns what land, who has what political influence, and they're winning. The Supreme Court just very stupidly opened the door to even more of that by protecting birthright citizenship. So now all the Chinese nationals who have been flying into the country to give birth, having their child and going back to China to raise the child in the communist Chinese way, now is raising an American citizen with an American vote who is inculcated in the teachings and the indoctrination of the Communist Party of China. And now there are signs popping up, I believe it's in Texas, where companies are advertising birth tourism services so that your child can come across the border, be born in Texas, and then fly back. And then whenever they well please it, they can come over the border and vote, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think at this point, if we don't start using new tools, it's too late, because there are far too many foreign people who are here with now voting rights and with the ability to be American citizens. And that's been so attacked and diluted as a definition that it basically doesn't mean anything anymore. And I no longer just want voting limited to American citizens. I want it limited even further. And so the way to get that is to start revoking American citizenship. The Trump administration has pursued denaturalization for a small number, but a very precedentally important number of people who are serious criminals. Instead of just deporting the ones who are illegal, what they've actually done is they've taken some people who are American citizens, recent migrants, relatively speaking, but they're American citizens, and denaturalized them, taken away that citizenship and sent them away. That's a step beyond just the deportations that we were promised in the Trump admin, and I'm glad they're doing this. Now, like I said, it's too small. It's experimental. They're testing the waters. I hope they find that that test is highly successful, and I hope they start doing it en masse. Anyone who has a serious felony, anyone who's a first or second, maybe even third generation immigrant who can be proven to be basically useless to our society, completely detrimental, completely milking off our welfare supply, not being a productive member of society, committing crimes, making yourself a general problem and a dead weight, they need to go. Denaturalize them and get rid of them. We've had a grievous evil worked on us. The theft of our birthright, the theft of our tax dollars, the theft of our national identity. And the only way to rectify it is to take back what was stolen. If there is a thief, you don't just reprimand him and say, steal no longer, and then let him keep his loot. Because really the lesson you're then giving him is, don't get caught. You can continue to steal and you'll earn profit from it. And similar to the way the Biden administration claimed to be tough on the border. Do not come, says Joe Biden, and it didn't work. Why? Because there was no actual penalty. So Trump is doing well by giving an actual penalty for illegal immigration. He's throwing them back across the fence. But there are a lot of people here who have used legal means to get here who shouldn't be here. And there are a lot of people who've used illegal means to get here, who've weaved their way through cracks in the system that were placed there intentionally as pathways, and now have citizenship, and they can now vote. Anyone who's here under the birthright citizenship rules, who is an anchor baby, they need to go too. It's hard to hear, but you got to understand me. This is how you have to fix our country.